Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, folks, it is now Campfire Talk time with Mr. Larry Weissoon. Larry's standing by, and I think he's got some, well, I know we got some fun stuff to talk about. Don't we, Larry?
You know, we really do, look. And we were talking, last time I think you said something about 18 years that we've been doing this radio show. It's amazing. I've always told you, and I've been very honest about it, this is one of the favorite things that I get to do each week. And we've been so fortunate over the last many years to have DSC, Conservation Education, Hunter Advocacy, as one of our primary sponsors. And, of course, Hornady as well, accurate, deadly, dependable. Mossberg, made in Eagle Pass, Texas. Their rifles and shotguns. Stealth Vision has also come on board some time ago. Some of the finest hunting optics you can ever imagine. They're headquartered in Crockett, Texas. And then over close toward Nacogdoches, we got VINEYARDMAX. And so when you get right down to it, a lot of our people are here from Texas. And then, of course, we also, I know that you shoot with different rifles and different handguns occasionally, but I've got Taurus that I do a little bit of work with in terms of their handguns with their raging hunters. And with all that said, we got some more hunting coming up. I mean, we're fortunate we live in Texas where through the February the 28th, we are still going to be able to hunt deer. So life is good this time of the year.
Life is good, Larry. I like that mindset. I really do. Jeff Rice is going to, let's see, I think he's scheduled to be with us later today on this show talking about some, we were talking about making some stir fry, some Asian food. That's
oh man,
not exactly your old standard Texas deer camp victuals, but you and I and Jeff like it. And folks, we're going to be real soon. We're heading out to Larry's lease out in far west Texas in Sterling County, and Jeff is going to talk about making the sweet and sour Asian dish, sweet and sour pork. And he'll go into great detail, but I can tell you this: I've tried his recipe, and it's good. So we may turn an old Texas deer camp into an Asian buffet before it's over, Larry. You know
what? I have no problem with that because I love stir fries. And interesting that you should mention, but you're one of the premier cooks as far as I'm concerned, of camp chefs. And you and I have done books together, including Campfire Talk and Poor Man's Grizzly, and of course the one that I did, the Whitetail Addictions, and those are available. I want to brag a little bit on your website, catfishradio.org, and on mine, larryweissoon.net. But we're also working on a project in terms of photography and in terms of recipes with Matt Burgess, who's involved with Stealth Vision.
Yep.
And through Matt, the three of us are putting together kind of a most interesting cookbook and telling some stories, and the photography is going to be fantastic. That's a book that's kind of coming out in the future. We're just now starting to work on it. But while you and Jeff and I are out on my place out there in western Texas, my lease, we're going to do some serious cooking while we're there. We're going to do some serious hunting, but, I think you may be hunting with your smoke pole, and Jeff is going to be using a little bit of different things, and I'll use a little bit of different things. But when it gets right down to it, we get back to camp, we're going to be showing some pretty cool cooking stuff.
That's right, and it'll be a good chance to get some good pictures, for that upcoming book.
Yes, sir.
And that book, it's in the very early stages that Larry's talking about with Matt Burgess. But Matt is a guide up in, up in Alaska, up there he guides, and Montana.
Well, absolutely, in Montana and in Alaska, and he does some things too with overseas,
Yeah.
like in Mongolia and, all those other places. So that book is going to be based on some of the places that you've been, some of the places, the weird stuff that I've had and to eat. And I'm sure it's going to be a little bit of the same with Matt as well, too. So going to be a great time to put all that stuff together. And then with all that said, too, we don't want to forget about, what is it, March 1st?
March the 1st, Larry. Yes.
Yes, sir.
The rendezvous, outdoor spring rendezvous in Greenville, Texas. It's going to be fun. I tell you, I'm getting busy right now. It's at the Top Rail Cowboy Church, folks, and Greenville is about an hour east of Dallas on I-30. Larry, this will be the 6th one, and you've been at all except the very first one. You've been there, man. I know for a fact we've got a lot of people, new people coming. We've got the Dutch Kettle people, the society out there doing Dutch kettle cooking. It's been this week. There's been several people, that's contacted us and that want to be out there. But I'd like to extend that invitation to everybody, Larry, that could come out.
Absolutely, and I think this year too, aren't you having a chili cook-off as well too?
Exactly. Yeah, they the person in charge is the pastor. Charlie Nasser's a great friend, and he's always ramrodded that. But it's got so big that here's our next caller coming in, live radio, Larry.
All right.
Well, they'll have to just beep a time or two. We'll get to them in a minute because we're talking rendezvous right now. But so another gentleman is in charge, and he's networking up a storm, getting a lot of. And he said, "What do you think about a chili cook-off, Luke?" And I said, I've been a judge of one two or three times, and they're a lot of fun. But I said, there's a lot of organization that goes into it. I know that. And Mr. Matt Foltz, your longtime friend.
Mr. Rod, yeah, exactly.
Roger Foltz.
Roger Foltz. Yeah, Roger and I serve as co-chair on the Breakfast Greeters, Exhibitor Breakfast Greeter Committee for DSC. Of course, the convention was just held not very long ago in Atlanta. But one of the things he and I talk about every time when they get together is, he won the chili cook-off down at Columbus several years ago and has won numerous other titles since then. So when you start talking about that, I'd suggest you get in touch with him. And I know that you have, and I know Roger and you're talking seriously about, what approach to take on all that. So that's going to be part of the rendezvous too. And we don't want to forget about the fact that, we got a guy, he's a fishing guide up there at Texoma. What's his name?
Oh, that's Bill Carey. Yeah, right.
Of course, Bill Carey and your nephew, I think, are going to be cooking fish as well too.
Yeah, they'll be fish. They brought that up, Bill. You and I, we're busy. I'm doing a little cooking on the campfire myself, but I really don't. I wouldn't mind cooking fish, but I just don't have the time up there.
No.
And Bill, we're gonna have a fish fry. I said, well, Bill, look, buddy, you don't go out of your way. He said, oh no, we're having a fish fry. And I said, okay, okay. Well, I've got a bunch of catfish, and of course he'd round up some striper. So I think he and my nephew Billy, who's an old crappie guide, Billy Kilpatrick.
Yes, sir.
I think
Exactly.
they'll ramrod that thing, but we're going to be eating a bunch of cobbler I'm gonna cook a whole bunch and then some smoked pork. But back to Roger. I'm sorry, Roger, if you're listening, man. My brain is a one track. That caller, he's sure wanting to be on the radio, Larry. You hear him? He wants to. He will be on. I wish I could tell him that. Hang on, buddy. We're gonna get you next. But the chili cook-off will bring a lot of other people in. I know that. So,
where I was going with all that, there's going to be chili to try. There probably will be 3 or 4 chuck wagons, a chuck wagon society.
Yep.
Luke Clayton's going to be cooking probably some hot links type thing from Kuby's.
Yeah.
And what I'm hoping is, I was hoping you wasn't going to mention your cobbler, because Folks, Luke makes the best cobbler there is to be had anywhere in the world. I really didn't want him to mention it so that I'd have more to eat and so that nobody else would know about it. And then when I left there to head to the next place I'm going to, I was going to bring a couple of extra gallon containers to carry with me because I was hoping nobody else would have any. So, but if you're there, you got, now that the word's out, I guess, you got to try some of Luke's cobbler.
Come by and have a cup of the cobbler. Yep, well, I'm going to try to. Last year I doubled what I used to do. I used to just make a number 14 Dutch kettle full of cobbler, and it would be inhaled. Really. So I thought, whoa, what? So then I doubled it last year, and really, honestly, last year there was a little bit left. I think you took some home, or somebody did.
I was hoping you didn't notice.
Anyway, folks, it is just a whole bunch of fun. And people say, well, there's a lot of vendors there, but it doesn't have to be just outdoor gear. It can be anything. People were selling jewelry and all kind of stuff, But
exactly.
To learn more about it, you can go to catfishradio.org. We have a poster. Boy, he's persistent. He wants to be on the air bad. Oh, anyway, you can go to catfishradio.org, folks, and it's a simple deal. You can get a booth. They just ask that you give a little donation to the church, for the booth space, and people,
which is only fair,
and it helps them a whole bunch. Well, Larry, I tell you, buddy, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. I want to thank all of our radio stations, the many radio stations that choose to run our show, and then, of course, it becomes a podcast. It's on iHeart and all those places after the radio stations run it. So,
yes, sir.
A lot of ways it's a good way to keep up with Mr. Whitetail here too, because like I say, 18 years I've tracked Larry all over Africa and Mongolia and some places I can't pronounce, but you've been here on phones from remote places through the years. Now it's a little bit easier to track you down, to catch you these days.
It is, and we'll talk a little bit about my Coues whitetail hunt down in Rango, Mexico here for too very long, and also I'm hosting a buffalo hunt on the Choctaw that was sold at the DSC Foundation last year. Here in the next coming up here in about a week or so. So we'll tell people a little bit more about that and a few other things that we've got into. And we're still hunting, but you know what? We're going to be doing some serious fishing here for too long as well.
We're going to talk about that next time, Larry. Thank you for being with us. Okay, buddy. Talk to you and see you real soon. Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to introduce you to VINEYARDMAX. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant, that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Whitesoon, and we were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, VINEYARDMAX has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Friends, I want to tell you about an awesome camping destination, Wind Point Park on Lake Tawakoni. It's over on the far east side, kind of the northeast side of the lake. It's a pristine park. You can go there and view, I think they estimated a couple of hundred deer on that couple of hundred acres there. Cabins, beautiful RV park, fishing piers, docks. It's got everything you'd want in an outdoor destination. Check them out online at windpointparktx.com. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, if you've listened to our show very much, you know that I absolutely love hunting up in southeast Oklahoma, the Choctaw Nation. I've got a lot of friends there, and the Choctaw Hunting Lodge is, don't be confused that it's not just a lodge, but it's like on 44,000 acres up there in that beautiful mountain country. But Mr. Matt Gamble, who is the senior manager of wildlife for the Choctaw Nation. Matt is our guest right now, and I bet I'll learn a few things, and maybe you too, when we visit with Matt. Matt, thank you, buddy, for being with us.
Well, Luke, I appreciate you having me on.
I enjoyed spending a little bit of time with you when I was up there hunting. Larry Weissoon and I and some other guys, some writers and industry folks, was up there and had an absolute ball. I got some really good venison and shot a hog while I was there that had the wattles, and it was a descendant of the Choctaw hogs, you know. I'm getting that thing, the feet mounted, the mule foot hog is what I'm talking about, you know. And
oh yeah, that's a unique opportunity right there.
Oh man, I wanted to shoot a mule foot hog or hunt one most of my adult life, and finally got one. So yeah. But there's a lot, we could probably spend 2 hours and just scratch the surface on that. But the land up there, they're in that area there, which is near, I think actual nearest little town would be Daisy there. It's kind of north of Hugo. From Paris, Texas, you can be there, just to give you an idea, folks, probably in less than an hour, I'm guessing. But there's over 40,000 acres in that area there, right?
Correct. There's around 44,000 acres there. It's a really, really unique property that it's some really prime wildlife habitat, and it's pretty special to be able to have that much land, that's all contiguous there in Oklahoma.
It is. It's way different. When I was a kid growing up over in Texas in Red River County, just across the Red, Weyerhaeuser, owned, I guess they still own a lot of land, but that was the hunting back in those days when I was growing up, if you were up in there hunting, unless you own land. But the unique thing is that's one of the closest places for people listening in Texas to go to to hunt an eastern turkey. That's the species up there, is the eastern birds. And just across the Red River, down in Red River County where I was raised, that was the first county, Matt, that was stocked with eastern turkey in Texas. But the restocking just hasn't been, there are eastern turkeys in Red River County still, in Lamar and those counties, but it really hasn't taken off like many of us had hoped it would. But they're in southeast Oklahoma, just across the river. For some reason, they do really well, don't they, the eastern birds?
We have a really, really good population of turkeys on the property, especially on the hunting lodge side.
Yeah.
Southeast Oklahoma's had some rough years as far as the turkey hatches go, and there's kind of a trend of some population decline, pretty much range wide for wild turkeys. But man, these past 2 years, we've had some really good hatches. It's really bounced back. We've got a lot of, this year when we've been out and about doing different surveys and out with hunters, we've seen a lot of jakes this year, that were hatched this spring. Mm-hmm. And then we've got a lot of 2-year-old birds. So that's really promising that, the population's kind of bouncing back.
You bet. I've hunted them up there one time. Matt, the size of those eastern birds that's what really impressed me. And something else that impressed me about hunting eastern, I've killed a train load of Rios in my life in Texas here, a bunch of them, I really have. But the eastern, they just seem to be more wary than I guess maybe because they're woods birds, I don't know. But I know Rio, if you see him out, you might spot him 200 yards away, but they'll come on, a lot of times they'll come on into a call or a decoy, but it seems like the woods birds, maybe because they're close, they live in close heavy cover a lot, but they seem more challenging to me to hunt than the Rios. I don't. Maybe it's just my limited experience. Yeah.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, it's even though we have a really, really strong population, and man, it's you know, it's a great hunt. But it's still not a slam dunk with those Easterns. Easterns are just they're a lot different than those Rios. They don't pattern as well. They don't respond to a call as well. You know, it's just a different bird.
It's a bird of a different feather, man. It really is, especially to an old Rio hunter like myself. I'll tell you, it's kind of a funny story. I didn't kill one. I had the opportunity, though, a grand opportunity. I was hunting in the woods, and had one in. No kidding. You know, when I tell this, people that are really hunted turkey can understand. I had a guy tell me, "You missed a turkey with a shotgun." Well, I did, but it was thick cover, and this big old gobbler. I bet that rascal had a 10-inch beard, honestly. And he was in, Matt. This turkey was in as close as 15 yards, but he come in on the brushy side of where I was hunting. I was hoping to get him out in the open. He didn't come in the open. And all I would see was just a head sticking around, or he'd stop and strut every now and then. And finally I said, look, I mean, I can shoot 20 yards or 25 yards maybe at that point. I'd see that head come around a tree. Well, when that head came around the neck, I let her go. And guess what? I totally missed that turkey. I was telling some of my buddies, they you know, that don't hunt turkeys, they said, you actually missed one at 25 yards or 30 yards, whatever, with a shotgun? I said, I did. You just had to have been there to see it. But they're more wary. They are.
That's definitely Easterns. I have a pretty good knack especially with Easterns, for setting up the opposite way of how you think they're gonna come in. Mm-hmm. You know, you always have this picture in your mind of how they should come in and how pretty it's going to look, but then they do the opposite. And it ends up. I'll admit I've been right there with you. I've missed some pretty chip shots before with Easterns.
It's embarrassing, especially when like I say, a Rio. He's probably going to be at least in open country or whatever. Oh, I've took shots that were a little too far away and whatever. I've missed some Rios too, but I wanted one of those so bad. And this was a big old gobbler, and I thought, well, okay, just chalk it off as experience. That's coming up. I know the lodge, they stay a lot of interest in hunting Rios. They're at the Choctaw Hunting Lodge. Dusty was telling me, so that's a big deal for people coming in. Probably a lot of Texans that's never killed an Eastern bird, right? They come up there.
Oh yeah. You know, that's one of the interesting things. We get to meet a lot of different people, you know, from all over the country that come up to hunt at Choctaw Hunting Lodge. And, you know, if it's their first time to Southeast Oklahoma, they're usually pretty surprised because they're expecting rolling prairies, kind of the stereotypical, you know, Oklahoma scene, but then they get down there in those piney hills and they aren't real sure what where they landed.
Exactly. Well, the outlook for spring turkey up there is good. I mean, I saw a bunch of birds myself when I was up there, deer and you know, hunting for the hogs, the mule-footed hogs up there. We want the bear. That's something. When I was a kid, a boy growing up across the river there from all of y'all, that part of the country, there weren't, to my knowledge, there weren't any bear. Maybe there were a few. But then as I got a little bit older, I started hearing about a bear season up in Arkansas. A lot of bear being coming down into the Choctaw country there, the Indian Territory, whatever. And now there's I won't say a lot, but the bear numbers seem to be pretty strong up in there right now, Matt, you know?
Bear population is very healthy. You know, the bear, Arkansas Game and Fish had a restocking program I believe it was in the 1960s. Don't quote me on that. That's just going from my memory. But they actually reintroduced some black bears that came from Canada, and man, they've done extremely well. And since they've been reintroduced, they've found suitable habitat in some of the forests that Oklahoma and Arkansas share, and they keep pushing westward, and as they find suitable habitat. And there's the Choctaw property is kind of on the western fringe of the population, but we have a lot of bears, and it just goes to show how strong that population is. And I predict it's going to continue pushing westward until they fill all the available habitat.
Matt, in Red River County, again, where I was raised, still have some friends that have. Well, I've got a buddy, Mike Ford, that has a hunting ranch, Rio Rojo Rancho. It's within 2 miles of the Red River. But for the last, I'd say 7 or 8 years, I've had people say, hey, look at my trail camera. Look at this bear. Knock my feeder over. They're death on corn feeders, those bear are. But there's quite a few in counties like Lamar and Red River County. And I'm told these are males that are out, looking that's what bear do, I guess, when they reach maturity, the male bears, looking for new territory and mates. But there's quite a few that come across the Red River down south, Matt.
Yeah, and that's what animals are supposed to do. They're supposed to disperse, and as long as there's available habitat for them, they're going to move to it. A lot of times we're the limiting factor. The people's tolerance of whatever species it may be. In southeast Oklahoma, I think people are really starting to embrace being in bear country, and learning to live with them, and learning that they're not something to fear, they're just part of the ecosystem, and they're really, a really good indicator of healthy habitat. If you've got a lot of bears, you probably got some pretty good forest habitat.
You bet.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at SmokinTex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on when that scope is leveled, because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well, too, and a whole lot of other products, and folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com.
Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy, Mr. Justin Rudd, and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, Mr. Matt Gamble, he is up there in southeast Oklahoma in that mountain country, and I wasn't able to get him right back on, but we're going to get Matt back maybe next week. He's the the senior manager of wildlife for the Choctaw Nation. We'll get him back, maybe talk some more bear or eastern turkey. But right now, let's ease up across the Red River in Oklahoma and Texas, Lake Texoma's, where we're talking about. Mr. Bill Carey, Striper Express, is standing by, and I want to say good morning, Mr. Carey.
Well, good morning, Luke, and all y'all out in radio land.
Well, we're all out here, Bill, and we're bated breath, ready to talk some striper fishing with you. You know, it's, near the end of January now. Haven't had you on in a couple of weeks, but I've fished with you guys so much that I've got a pretty good handle, but I need you to tell me exactly what's going on. By the way, Bill, have you watched our show, A Sportsman's Life with Jeff Rice and Larry Weissoon? You know, we've done that show together for several years. It's on Carbon TV right now, and it's on YouTube, easy to find there. But the show that we did with you and Captain Tim, Dead Sticking, that's on YouTube right now for people to watch. That turned out really well. We caught a bunch of fish. And back at the dock, Bill, we caught some, I was kind of doing some filming. Caught a big old rough fish there, buffalo, I believe, big old, I don't know what he weighed, 10 or 12 pounds. And Jeff caught some big old blues, got it all on film. And then Larry Weissoon has got some video of a buck, some of the best buck and doe chasing video I've ever seen. That's a good show. That was fun too, wasn't it? Being up there.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We did a lot there in the last month, and
yeah,
it was a pleasure. Did you see my fishing tip?
I did.
I said, your fishing tip is watch more A Sportsman's Life.
Well, that's good. It's that show. We'll talk about that just a little bit. But you do. Bill Carey, Striper Express here, folks, gives a fishing tip every week. He's done it for a long time, and it's stuff that is really helpful stuff that Bill talks about. So that's part of the show. And then this particular show we filmed up there at Texoma with Bill and Captain Tim there. So yeah, it's dead sticking. It really, you can learn a lot. The interesting part about that, Bill, one of the things is I knew I better say something on camera, but we had the Bobo's thumper going. Captain Tim did thump, thump,
yes, sir.
thump, thump, hitting the bottom of that boat, and that obviously came out on the audio. And I thought I better tell these people what that thumping sound is, because everybody listening was thinking, what in the world, But the thumping sound brings the stripers, puts them in an active mode. And most boats up there now, especially in the wintertime, have got a thumper, a mechanical thumper that thumps. It's actually a rubber mallet there that thumps the striker and runs on electricity, and it does work. Years ago, I was very hesitant to accept that fact, but I'd be with people that would use a stick with a rubber boot on it, like a walking cane. And that it definitely works, and it worked that day for us, didn't it?
Oh, it does. That thumper's something else. Jeff Bobo's got it figured out. He's been doing that for years now. And,
yeah.
One of our guys had a great story the other day. He was dead sticking, and he had his trolling motor down. They've got spot lock now. You don't have to put an anchor out. That's the anchor itself on the trolling motor. And he decided to pull away from the fish. He was done, and he said he trolled for 5 minutes with that thumper going, and those fish followed him the whole time with that thumper going. So it worked. It works.
There's no question. Well, you think about a striper or a white bass, any open water schooling species, they make their living chasing shad in this part of the world. So, that's, and they're, I think, for lack of a better term, I think the striper's a curious fish. They are. He's got to wonder. He hears that thumping. He wonders if that's, I don't know if a fish has got a brain to really wonder, but his instinctive nature, wait a minute, something might be eating something up there. So,
that's right.
That's right. Don't you think that's probably part of it?
Oh, they are so curious. And that's how we've lasted 40 years. That striper is a schooling fish, aggressive feeder. And, you put that thumper down or the splasher, and they will come to you. It's just amazing.
It works. Folks listening here, a a little history with Striper Express with Bill Carey. 40 years ago, I was doing a weekly fishing tips column for a big newspaper, the biggest one in Texas at the time. It was the Dallas Morning News, and I communicated with Bill quite often about fishing tips. It was a column on Thursdays that was strictly about how to catch, where the fish are biting, and some real good tips. Well, Bill, I remember you, the Striper Express, where your business really kind of got its name, a big old boat that you, back in that period, you showed people that you could take a big boat, like a small party boat. It was a party boat, the Striper Express. You could take that thing and put it on Lake Texoma and load it up with, 10 or 12 people, like a party boat offshore in a way, in a different setting, of course, and catch a bunch of stripers. So that's really where Striper Express, I remember talking to you vividly on the phone when you were heading out to pick that boat up. Do you remember that conversation?
Yes, sir. That was in 1992.
92. Now, it seems like, 92, that's been a long time ago. But it did, well, for those of us that were there, it doesn't seem that long, 92. But, yeah, you picked it up, and for years, I was really hesitant. I thought, wait a minute, don't you need to be mobile and be rolling with these stripers? But it would create a big old shade. I fished it with you, those stripers would pull in under it. And it was live bait fishing, and it was hammer time. I know that's kind of in your plans to put, Bill still has the boat, but re-rigging that thing, that would be just awesome. And maybe that'll, possibly that could, I know you're kicking that idea around,
That's a goal for 2025. We're going to put it back on the water.
Put her back. I promise you, I don't care what I'm doing. I want to be on the inaugural run. You've got little Dave Escamilla up there that's going to be your captain, Yep. And yes, I tell you what about little Dave. I fished with him off and on for many years with little Dave. I have never been on a boat with anybody any quicker. He is like a squirrel on steroids as far as quick. I mean, that guy, he would be the ideal person running that. I mean, because
he's a good fisherman. He covers all bases. He wants to do that boat. It's licensed to carry up to 20 people. He wants to do that without a deckhand, and I went, no way.
He can't even. He can't handle that. No. As fast as he is, nope. I mean, I get it, but I tell little Dave that old Luke thinks he probably needs to have help on that.
Yeah, we've had guides before. I've had them call me and go, I hate that boat. And they why? And during a slab run, we'll slab on that boat, and you cannot pull those fish out from under that boat. You've got 15, 20 slabs going down, and you're holding them, and you're drifting. You may drift, a mile or two and hold those fish. And the guy called me one time and goes, I hate that boat. You just can't pull those fish out from under it. I remember commandeering that boat a few times and had people actually applaud us that anchored near us or drifting near us. And when we rolled them up, they applauded, said, I've never seen anything like it. Because those stripers, when they bite, they come in fast.
Oh, they do. Yeah, I fished party boats, out of Freeport. There used to be Captain Elliott's party boats, and I fished. Right. I knew Captain Elliott and a whole bunch down there. I used to fish a lot. And, offshore, those big old boats, I don't know how long they were, 60 foot or something. But
Big old boats. But when the old
Striper Express kicked off, I was a little hesitant in the beginning, but I wasn't after a trip or two on that thing. So anyway, maybe that'll come back. I hope that works out.
We're gonna do it.
Yeah, okay. Full speed ahead, Bill. So right now, those old egg-laden female stripers, they're heavy right now, and there's some big ones being caught, aren't there?
Yes. Yeah. Our biggest fish this month has been 17 pounds, and we trophy hunt in January and February. We take the Roadrunner made by Wolf Jig. This is the people that made it for Blakemore back in the day. Yep. And we buy them from Wolf now, and we put a 7-inch white curl tail worm behind it, and it's a big presentation, half ounce, structure fishing, big fish, big bait. You're not going to go out there and catch 50, 70 fish like you do other times a year. But like I always tell people, when you hear your guide grunt, get the net.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. When they pull, what you're talking about, when they pull down and you jerk back, you got your hands full for a while. And those old big catfish, that's kind of a plus. When you get back to the dock, I mean, it's not something that people, your clients, to be quite frank, when they get back, well, it's you got 30, 40 minutes there, around the dock, drop some cut bait down, and gosh, that show that's on a Sportsman's Life right now will show Jeff Rice catching, 55-pounder, whatever, big one. And then I caught a couple of nice ones, a 45-pounder there on the trip prior to that. So that's fun to do. And then you can
I
catch.
believe Jeff's fish was bigger than 55.
It was a big one.
Y'all released it.
Yeah,
it's a big one.
It was a monster, wasn't it? Maybe 65. We didn't weigh it because we wanted to get him get her back in the water, But
yeah, they're too magnificent to keep. Let them grow.
Oh yeah, and then catch. I know Mr. Edgar Cotton, the other previous time, was up with us, and his son David. Edgar caught a channel cat that probably weighed 12 or 14 pounds.
Yeah, there's a good eater.
They are. Well, Bill, man, it's always fun to talk to you. You're going to be at our rendezvous, March the 1st, friends, in Greenville, Texas, which for those of you that might be listening away from the Dallas area, let's say, Greenville's an hour east of Dallas. This will be our 6th annual outdoor rendezvous. And to learn more about it, or to get you a space there to market your goods, Top Rail Cowboy Church, Greenville. Just search that out. Greenville Top Rail Cowboy Church, and call up there. The booth spaces are free. We ask, if you can, a donation for your, to the church for your booth. But it's on about 14 acres, and rain or shine, we've never had to go under the roof on the pavilion, on the arena there, but we could. If it rained, that's the plan. So rain or shine. Bill, StriperExpress.com is where they need to go to learn about you. And I advise people who want some hot winter fishing, get up there at Lake Texoma and visit with you. And we'll get you back pretty quick. I want to stay on top of that. The spawn is right around the corner, the beginning of it. I want you to keep us posted. Would that work for you?
You betcha. Will do.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, CVA.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use, you can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas, and VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, folks, you know, you don't need a game warden till you need one bad. We've got a friend of mine who's the captain of game wardens in Northeast Texas, Mr. Steve Stapleton. Now, Steve has got game wardens over him, honestly. You know, I'm sure quite a few in that big region of Northeast Texas. I thought it'd be fun to have us a real live game warden on. Hey, Steve, thank you for being with us, buddy.
Hey, Luke, it's a pleasure as always. How are you?
I'm doing real well. Had a little cold weather in here a couple of weeks ago, you know, and I know that got all the outdoorsmen going. But, you know, your job, I've had friends for game wardens, a couple in my life, and I've been around you guys quite a bit. But honestly, you know, yeah, okay, you got a deer camp, you know, did I do anything wrong? That's just common. I guess everybody thinks the game warden's coming in there checking. What did I do wrong? Anything, you know? So yeah, and that's probably a good thing. But when you guys also do, I mean, it's not all about writing tickets. I mean, that's just a small part of what you do, isn't it? Really, you know?
We're trying to be all things to all people these days, and I'm not sure if we're accomplishing it, but God, we look good doing it. That's the main thing. But no, the world's changed just like everywhere else and every other job, and being a game warden is no different. Hey, I've got 25 years on with the department as a Texas game warden, and hey, it used to be all about hey, bucks and ducks, and that's and putting a bad guy in jail every now and again. And now it's so much more. And hey, a lot of public service, hey, a lot of public safety, hey, a lot of border work, hey, a lot of disaster responses. Hey, this little snowstorm, come through. Hey, we're involved in that. Hey, we're out and about, dialed up with the counties and the disaster districts. Hey, the border. It's funny. We're into everything these days. So, like you said before, hey, when you really want a game warden, you may have good odds of us not being around because we're doing something else. But be patient; we'll get you one. Okay.
I know. One thing, there's things that we won't even talk about, but there's some unpleasant things. We had a guy that I live in Combine in Kaufman County, which is western side of Kaufman. We had a gentleman about a year ago. We had a flood, and the East Fork of the Trinity was rolled and got in a kayak and perished. And I drove through there, and guess who was there? There was a couple of you might have been there. A couple of game wardens, but you have to do. I can only imagine some of the things after 25 years you've had to do and witnessed and seen, right?
Yeah, Luke. If you ever hang out with game wardens. You'll notice real quick they've all got a pretty good sense of humor. Yeah. And I theorize a lot of times why that is. And to be frank is they see so many tragic things. If they don't laugh, they're gonna cry. Yeah. And that's just the frank matter of it. Hey, whether it's a boating accident or hey, listen, I've got wardens up there in Grayson County right now still looking for that young lady that got swept out of that car off 75. And they have been there every day since that happened, including Christmas, So whether it's that or hunting accident or drought, so we see a lot of bad things. But with that said, hey, past all that, hey, we do see a lot of good.
You do, and help a lot of people. I was raised in you're talking about the old school game wardens, but when I was a boy in Red River County, well, I guess that's part of your area, right?
Well, that is not my district goes right up to it, but I am well aware of Red River. I grew up hunting that IP land with my dad. Forever.
Later called it Northwoods. It's right there on the west side of Highway 37. Right. Well, I was raised when you go north out of Clarksville about 6 miles, there's one steep hill that goes down into the Pecan Bayou, only one. I was raised at Dimple Community on the top of that hill. So we had
you're danger close to Negley.
You darn right. Yes.
Yeah, I know where you are.
Yeah. South of Negley there, and Bagwell, all that stuff out there. But
I'll tell you how country I am. I remember going there with my dad and he lives over in Campbell, Texas, but he
Yep.
can attest to this. And we would go over there, and the day before season open, you would wait at the Negley store.
Yep.
I'd get you a Coke and a glass bottle, maybe some peanuts, and you would wait for the biologist to show up and hand out first come, first serve doe tags.
Is that right?
And,
yeah.
and that was a big deal back then too, you know. And now you look forward this many years later, and we have deer everywhere. So it's amazing how things have changed, you know. And,
so that Negley store, there's a couple. My dad owned the Dimple store back in the 40s and 50s, and he sold that store, and it's burnt. It's been gone for years, but and it went into the broiler chicken business. He was one of the first broiler people. But the Negley store, if I'm not, I knew the gentleman that owned that. It was on the west side of 37 there. Right where you turn off. Yeah, that's going back a long way. But we had a game warden back in those days, in the 60s, and then I guess in the 70s maybe. Puckett. Game warden Puckett was his name.
Yep. Yeah, probably Donnie Puckett.
That's it. You know of him, or maybe knew him when you were younger. I don't know.
There ain't many game wardens, so we kind of know.
Puckett.
Kind of know everybody.
He was the game warden forever up there that I grew, and he was a nice guy, but you'd probably have to get to know him to know that he was a nice guy, because he did have a hard outer shell, man. I mean,
well, they had to back then. And,
yeah.
and it's funny. I tell a lot of people in the old days when we were hiring wardens, they would go out and look for probably the meanest person they could find. Somebody who's kind of rough around the edges, kind of a little rowdy, because that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Now, many years later, and I sit on our interview panels, we're looking for somebody that's very articulate, you know, and has life experiences, and you know, maybe is as forethought, and maybe can carry on a nice conversation with the public. That's what we're looking for.
And that's good. There's a guy, a Texas game warden that I don't remember his name, but you're talking about that fits that bill perfectly. He's the PR guy for game wardens. I ran into him. He come up to me at a Dallas Safari Club one time.
Sure.
I was up there with Larry Weissoon doing something, I don't know. And he introduced himself. He said, "My job is PR for the Texas Game Wardens." And that's what he did. Yeah, that's been several years ago. But you're right. Even though I could get it, I get it. When you walk up on a deer camp, I mean, I can imagine. I've had a bunch of deer camps in my life, and I've been guessed at, you can imagine, as an old outdoor rider, a bunch more. But when a game warden pulls up at, say, Saturday night at 8:30, you don't know what you're getting into. You don't.
No,
I mean, that I would be extremely cautious too, because especially this day and time. So you usually do this in pairs nowadays, or you know?
Well, we like to, just to take away the sheer boredom of having somebody riding with us. But but the frank reality of it is hey, we've got certain stations around the state where you got one game warden for two counties. Hey, especially out there in the Panhandle, you'll have one lone game warden covering two giant, Dahlem and Hartley County. So and he's all by himself. So we like to work in pairs, but hey, a lot of times we can't. We're spread pretty thin. So but hey, a good deputy's not far away. Hey, we may even get so desperate we may go get a trooper. You know what? We may take a trooper with us. So.
Well, this is interesting, too. So back in the 60s, in 1966, say, when I was 16 years old, I would go down, I would ride a bus to Houston, Texas. I would have a Marlin 336C and a soft case, ammo with me. I'd give it to the bus driver. He'd stick it inside the bus. I'd be sitting in the bus terminal downtown Dallas. My folks would take me there. Well, I'd get down there. Then I would go to Papa Dinkins in Waller and Hockley, down in that area. He owned 2,400 acres in the woods. He was 85 years old in 1965 about. So he was a great source of information. He had a gentleman, where I'm going with this, Steve, he had a gentleman named John something that was what they called $1 a year game warden. And he wasn't a real game warden, but he was acting. Did you ever hear of that? Or
Yeah. So that still exists to this day.
Do they?
We have what we call special game wardens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you'll see them, and usually they're a retired warden that's retired, but they still carry a badge and a gun.
Yeah.
And hey, they're I don't even think they get $1 a year. They're not getting paid. They're getting paid in sunsets and smiles.
Yep.
And you'll see them at some of these ranches. It's more of a emeritus type of thing with them. But hey, it's funny you talk about that soft case and the gun on the bus. I'm so country. I remember growing up over in Kuby, Texas in the early years, and you get on the school bus there, and there'd be a kid with a shotgun because he had just either come from rabbit hunting or was going to squirrel hunt after school. And it wasn't even a topic until he said boo about it. Of course, the school bus driver was smoking a cigarette, and you can just imagine the whole thing. But listen, it's such a different world. I remember growing up over there where my mom would kick me out of the door. I had a loaded .22 rifle, and nobody ever said boo about it. And she would say, "Don't come back till dark." And if she were to do that today, she'd get rung up on charges, Luke.
It would be. I wish we had about 5 hours, but I want to get you back with us and just talk some fun stuff. That's what our show's always been. I tell people all the time, if you're looking for Paul Harvey stuff, that's not me. But I'd like to get you back, Steve, and thank you a lot for sharing with us for a few minutes and giving us a little bit of an insight into what you do, buddy.
You bet. Hey, and I'll just end with this. Hey, when you see that game warden come into your camp, or hey, at the convenience store or whatever, hey, they work for you, and hey, they're glad to see you. Hey, 99.9% of the people we run into are good people. They really are, and they're out doing things the right way all the time, and we know that. And so, hey, when you see that game warden somewhere, hey, you may hug on them a little bit. They may need it. Okay, Luke? Good counsel. Thank you very much, buddy. I do appreciate you taking the time. Hey, we'll see you out there in the field.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you had a good time, too. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.